They say independence fades with age, but I've always believed it dies only when you allow it. I'm Emma Walcott, born in 1947 in Melbourne, Australia. Back in 2023 when I was 76. My daughter, Ela, snatched my purse from my hands. During one of our Sunday visits, I felt a mix of disbelief, anger, and betrayal that I never imagined at this stage in my life, but then something awakened inside me, a spark I hadn't felt in decades. Today, at 78, I'm finally sharing this because it matters that others understand the quiet ways control can creep into family life. If you're listening, drop your thoughts below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story. It started like any other Sunday. I was in my cozy kitchen, the scent of Earl Grey tea filling the air, biscuits cooling on a plate beside me. Adam, my grandson, was helping me set the table for our small ritual. Something sacred I had maintained for years, tea and conversation. Nothing rushed, everything familiar. I was humming a tune from my youth when Ela came barging in. Her eyes were sharp, the kind that demanded attention. The kind that made you feel like the walls themselves were judging you. "Mom, give me the purse," she said, reaching for it like she had every right in the world. I held it tighter, surprised and unsettled. "Ela, what are you doing?" I asked calmly. Though my hands were trembling. "You don't need this." "Anyway," she snapped, yanking it from me with a force that made my chest ache. That purse wasn't just leather and stitching. It was my armor, my little treasure chest of autonomy, filled with the memories of a lifetime. My savings, my letters, the little things that reminded me I had led a full, independent life. Her act wasn't about convenience or help, it was a declaration of control. I watched her leave the kitchen, my heart pounding, my hands empty. I realized, then and there, that this wasn't a small disagreement. This was the opening salvo of a war over respect, freedom, and dignity. In the hours that followed, I replayed the scene endlessly. My thoughts were heavy but deliberate. I remembered every moment Ela had tried to manage my life under the guise of care, from telling me how to dress, to monitoring my meals, to insisting she knew better than me how to manage my own finances. Each helpful suggestion had always felt like a subtle confinement, and now, the purse, the symbol of my agency, had been taken right from under me. I sat in my favorite chair by the window, watching the garden sway in the late afternoon breeze, and made a quiet promise to myself. This would not stand, not today, not ever. Adam noticed my silence and the furrow in my brow. "Grandma, are you okay?" he asked softly. I gave him a small smile, trying to mask the storm inside. "I'm fine, darling, but some things need to be put right." He nodded, sensing that something bigger than a lost purse was brewing. I realized then that this was also about the lessons I wanted to pass down to him: dignity, courage, and standing firm in your truth, no matter your age. There was a certain justice in teaching a young mind that independence is precious and worth defending. That evening, I reviewed the contents of my purse in my mind: cash, cards, receipts, my small checkbook, the token photographs of people I had loved and lost. Each item was a fragment of my story, fragments I refused to let someone else rewrite or erase. The next morning, I made my way to the local cafe, a place where I often met friends and neighbors. As I sipped my tea, I recounted the events to a few trusted friends. Their reactions were a mix of shock and validation. "Emma, you can't let her treat you like that," one said, her voice soft but firm. Another nodded in agreement, noting how common it was for adult children to overstep under the pretext of care. Their words were balm to my spirit, but also a reminder that I needed to act decisively, not just emotionally. I confronted Ela the following day. She was tidying up my living room when I entered. Calm but resolute. "Ela, we need to talk," I began. She looked up, an eyebrow raised, as if expecting a mild rebuke, but I was ready. "Taking my purse yesterday, it wasn't help. It was control, and I won't allow it to continue," she scoffed, rolling her eyes, dismissing my words as the quibbles of an old woman, but I could see the flicker of unease in her expression. I continued, "I treasure my independence, and you have no right to take it from me." For a moment, silence filled the room, thick and palpable. I could feel the shift. The subtle recognition that I was no longer passive in this dance of control. That Afternoon, I walked to the local bank, the streets familiar beneath my feet. The autumn light cast long shadows across the pavement, mirroring the shadows I had felt in my own home. At the bank, I met with my advisor and explained everything. The purse, Isla's insistence on managing my finances, my desire to protect my assets and maintain my autonomy. She nodded, understanding the delicate balance between family dynamics and personal rights. Together, we discussed closing joint accounts, setting up secure arrangements, and ensuring my money and property would remain under my control. Each step felt like reclaiming pieces of myself, each decision a small victory in a larger battle. Later, as I returned home, I noticed Ela peeking through the doorway, as if testing whether I had softened. I didn't respond, only continued arranging my books and personal items, a silent assertion that my home, my space, and my life were mine to govern. Adam sat nearby, quietly helping me organize. I caught his eyes and nodded. He understood. These small gestures of support, the solidarity of one loyal soul, were more powerful than any confrontation. I realized that strength is not always loud or explosive. It can be quiet, deliberate, and unwavering. By evening, I had begun drafting letters and notes to formalize my plans. My goal was clear: protect my assets, secure my autonomy, and make it impossible for anyone, even family, to overstep without my consent. Every detail mattered, every signature, every document, every decision was a brick in the wall I was building around my independence. Ela might think she held power, but in reality, the power had always been mine. I was simply learning how to reclaim it, brick by brick, day by day. As night fell, I reflected on the events. The purse, small and unassuming, had sparked a journey I hadn't anticipated. It had awakened a fierce determination, a refusal to be sidelined in my own life. I thought of Adam and the example I wanted to set for him. Life might try to impose limits on us, particularly as we age, but dignity, respect, and self-determination are non-negotiable. I poured myself a final cup of tea, savoring the warmth and comfort, letting the bitterness of betrayal dissolve slowly into a resolve that was stronger than any anger I had felt earlier. By the time Ela returned that night, I was ready. I greeted her calmly, without accusation but with unmistakable firmness. From now on, respect is non-negotiable, I said, holding her gaze. She hesitated, realizing perhaps for the first time that this was not just a moment of frustration. It was a turning point. The purse had been more than an object, it was a symbol, a catalyst for reclaiming my life. And as I went to bed that night, I felt a rare mix of exhaustion and empowerment, knowing the real work was just beginning, and that I was finally prepared to see it through, no matter the resistance. The morning after Isla's defiance, I woke early, the soft light of dawn spilling into my bedroom, and felt a sense of clarity I hadn't experienced in years. I made my tea slowly, watching the steam curl into the air, and realized that this was no longer just about a purse or a moment of anger. It was about asserting my life back into my own hands. Adam had stayed over, as he often did on weekends, and I saw in his eyes the concern and quiet encouragement that reminded me I wasn't alone in this. I explained my plan to him over breakfast. Adam, I need to secure everything properly. I can't let anyone control my life, not even your mother. His eyes widened slightly, but he nodded solemnly, recognizing the seriousness of my words. By mid-morning, I arrived at the bank, the crisp air filling my lungs as I walked up the familiar steps. Inside, the smell of polished wood and faint perfume from the lobby filled my senses. I was met by Sarah, a bank officer who had assisted me for several years. She greeted me warmly, but I could sense the curiosity in her gaze. I didn't hesitate. Sarah, I need to make some changes, I said, my voice firm. I want to close all joint accounts, revoke any access Ela has, and establish a trust with Adam as the sole beneficiary. I want everything under my control, and I want it done legally and properly. She nodded, quickly bringing over documents and forms, her expression respectful but cautious. Filling out the forms was painstaking but empowering. Each signature I placed, each initial in the margin, felt like reclaiming territory I never realized I had ceded. I thought about every time Ela had insisted she knew best, every time she dismissed my wishes, every time she crossed boundaries under the guise of care. Now, I had the power to protect myself, and it was intoxicating. I watched as Sarah explained the trust, how Adam would manage my estate without interference from anyone else, how the bank would recognize the trust as the ultimate authority, how my assets would be shielded from overreach. Every detail was clear, precise, and ironclad. Later that afternoon, I returned home, my mind buzzing with a mixture of anxiety and determination. I saw Ela sitting in the lounge, flipping through a magazine as if nothing had happened. She looked up briefly when I entered, a flicker of recognition in her eyes. I ignored the tension, setting my documents on the table and pouring a fresh cup of tea. "Ela," I said evenly, "I've made some changes at the bank. From now on, decisions about my finances are mine alone. Adam will oversee the trust, and no one else has access. I expect this to be respected." Her eyes narrowed slightly, her mouth twitching as if to speak, but she swallowed her words. I realized then that confrontation alone was not enough. Action had to speak louder than arguments. That evening, Adam and I sat down to discuss the future. "Grandma, are you sure about this?" he asked quietly, concern etched in his young face. I smiled at him, feeling a warmth I hadn't felt in weeks. "Yes, darling. It's time to make sure that my life, my money, and my home stay in my hands, or in someone I trust completely. You understand why this is necessary, right?" He nodded, squeezing my hand. "I get it, Grandma. I'll help however I can." His support was a balm, reminding me that reclaiming autonomy wasn't just about legalities. It was about building a small network of trust and loyalty in a world where family ties could be unpredictable. Over the next few days, Isla's behavior shifted slightly, though the underlying tension remained. She tried to question my choices, suggesting that I was being unreasonable, that she was only trying to help. But I had learned to anticipate these moments. I responded calmly but firmly. Each time, help is offered, not taken. I will not compromise my independence, Ela. Her attempts at persuasion grew more desperate, and I realized the importance of maintaining boundaries without anger. Anger, I knew, could cloud judgment. Calm, steady insistence, backed by legal action and clear consequences, was far more effective. Arranged a meeting with a lawyer, Mr. Collins, who specialized in elder law. He was professional, no nonsense, and immediately grasped the dynamics at play. "Emma," he said, "the trust will be bulletproof. Once it's executed, Ela has no legal claim. Adam will act in your interest, and your home and assets are protected." Hearing this gave me an unexpected sense of relief. I felt fortified, armed not just with emotion, but with law, logic, and procedure. It was a rare combination that brought both security and a strange, exhilarating sense of power. In the following weeks, I began implementing subtle changes at home to reinforce these boundaries. My mail was redirected, passwords updated, and personal items secured. Adam helped with the more technical aspects, and we turned the process into a small ritual of empowerment, paperwork, discussions, and careful planning, all interspersed with tea and laughter. It was a strange mix of seriousness and warmth, the kind of connection that reminded me life could still be tender even amid conflict. One afternoon, I found Ela lingering near the kitchen, trying to engage me in casual conversation. "Emma, don't you think you're overreacting?" she asked, her tone light but her eyes sharp. I smiled gently, keeping my composure. "No, Ela. I'm simply ensuring that my life and my choices are respected. There's no overreaction about self-preservation." She hesitated, sensing perhaps that her old tactics were no longer effective. I continued, "I understand you care, but care cannot become control. That line has been crossed too many times." Her shoulders slumped ever so slightly, and for a moment, the defiance in her eyes flickered into doubt. The true test came when Ela tried to access my accounts online. She hesitated, typing in passwords she thought she remembered, only to be met with denial. My heart leapt not in triumph, but in relief. This was the proof that the steps I had taken were working. I had transformed my anger and betrayal into something constructive, a shield that could not be breached by manipulation or entitlement. the legal documents, the trust. The careful planning, they were all pieces of a fortress I had built around my life. I spent long evenings reflecting on the lessons this process had imparted. Independence is not simply a matter of age, it's a matter of vigilance, courage, and decisive action. Even in the face of familial pressure, you must assert your rights and protect what is yours. I thought about my own mother, how she had surrendered too much to my grandparents, how she had learned the hard way about boundaries and autonomy. Now it was my turn to rewrite that story, to demonstrate that age does not necessitate submission. Through it all, I kept up the small rituals with Adam. Our Sunday teas became even more precious, moments of normalcy and connection amid the storm. I found strength in these routines, in knowing that while Ela may have challenged me, the foundation of trust and love with my grandson was unshakable. Each cup of tea, each shared laugh, reinforced my sense of agency, a daily reminder that life could be both protected and enjoyed simultaneously. In the quiet moments, I also allowed myself reflection and compassion. Ela was not a villain in the purest sense. Her actions were born of anxiety, habit, and perhaps a misguided notion of love. But compassion did not mean capitulation. I could acknowledge her motives while simultaneously enforcing boundaries. That distinction, I realized, was essential for maintaining both justice and family ties. It was a delicate balance, requiring patience, resolve, and unwavering commitment to principle. By the end of the month, the trust was fully operational, my finances secured, and Ila's access revoked. I felt an immense weight lift from my shoulders. I had navigated a minefield of family dynamics, legal procedures, and emotional turbulence, and emerged not only unscathed but empowered. Adam's quiet pride in my accomplishment reminded me that victories need not be loud to be meaningful. In the stillness of my living room, surrounded by the familiar warmth of home and family, I understood that this battle had strengthened me, clarified my priorities, and reinforced the truth that autonomy is non-negotiable. The weeks following the establishment of the trust were both tense and transformative. Ila's behavior became cautious. She hovered near the edges of our home, offering assistance, her movements deliberate and measured. I remained calm, neither retreating nor lashing out. Each interaction was a test of patience, a negotiation of respect, and a chance to reinforce boundaries without hostility. Adam continued to be my anchor, quietly observing, supporting, and reminding me of the importance of consistency. Together, we navigated this delicate balance of authority, care, and empathy. I could sense the gradual shift in Ila's demeanor, a softening that had been absent for years. She began to realize that my autonomy was not a threat to our relationship, but a necessary foundation for it. One afternoon, while arranging my study, Ela approached me with a tentative question. "Emma, can we talk?" she asked softly, her tone stripped of its usual sharpness. I looked up from the papers I was organizing and nodded. "Of course," I replied, gesturing for her to sit. She hesitated, her fingers twisting nervously in her lap. I didn't realize how much I overstepped. I thought I was helping, but I see now that I was controlling. "I'm sorry." Her words were quiet, almost fragile. Yet they carried the weight of acknowledgement I had longed to hear. I felt a mixture of relief and sadness, relief that she recognized her mistakes, sadness for the years of tension that might have been avoided. I offered her a small, reassuring smile. "Thank you, Ela. Apologies are meaningful, but actions moving forward will speak louder than words. Respect is earned through consistency." She nodded, understanding the gravity of my statement. I decided it was time to reinforce the practical aspects of our new arrangement. Over the next several days, I invited Ela to observe the protocols I had set in place with Adam regarding the trust and the management of my estate. She watched as we reviewed documents, organized finances, and planned for contingencies. I explained each step patiently, emphasizing that my decisions were final, yet acknowledging her role as my daughter in understanding the framework. It was a delicate dance of transparency without surrender, education without concession. Each Interaction solidified the lines we had drawn, showing Ela that care and respect could coexist without infringing on autonomy. Meanwhile, life with Adam continued to be a source of comfort and joy. Our Sunday rituals, tea, biscuits, and quiet conversation became sacred moments of normalcy amidst the ongoing negotiations. We laughed, shared stories, and reflected on past memories. Adam's presence reminded me that life could be rich, warm, and meaningful even in the midst of conflict. His loyalty and understanding served as a counterbalance to Ila's past intrusions, reinforcing the lesson that true family support respects boundaries and preserves dignity. These rituals were a testament to the resilience of connection, proving that love need not be entangled with control. Ela gradually began to test the boundaries, tentatively offering help without overstepping, asking permission before acting, and respecting my decisions. Each small gesture of compliance was met with calm acknowledgement, reinforcing the new norms. I noticed that she no longer approached with entitlement but with deference, a shift that signaled the potential for genuine reconciliation. I remained firm yet kind, understanding that this fragile trust required patience, consistency, and vigilance. Over time, our interactions became less confrontational, more collaborative, a testament to the power of boundaries in restoring balance to strained relationships. One evening, as the sun dipped low over the horizon, casting golden light through the windows, Ela approached me with she held out the old purse, now a symbol of both tension and resolution. "Here, Mum," she said softly. I thought, maybe it's time you have it back. I accepted it with calm gratitude, feeling the texture of the worn leather in my hands. It was a moment of quiet reconciliation, a symbolic return of agency and acknowledgement of past mistakes. I felt a surge of both relief and empowerment, knowing that the battle had not been fought for vanity, but for the preservation of dignity and self-determination. Over the next months, our family life stabilized in a way that felt almost miraculous. After the turbulence, Ela learned to respect my space, my decisions, and my possessions, while Adam continued to serve as a steady, supportive presence. The trust and financial safeguards I had established remained intact, a constant reminder that autonomy could be preserved through diligence and foresight. I began to experience a profound sense of peace, understanding that reconciliation did not mean surrender, and that boundaries were not barriers to love, but foundations for it. As I reflected on the journey, I realized that the struggle had taught me invaluable lessons. Independence is not a gift that fades with age, it is a right that must be defended actively and thoughtfully. Family bonds are complex, and love does not always prevent overreach or misjudgment. True respect requires acknowledgement of boundaries, patience, and consistent enforcement, and sometimes the acts of reclaiming control, establishing legal safeguards, asserting personal authority, and teaching the next generation through example become the most profound forms of love. In private moments, I often considered the emotional toll the conflict had taken on both Ela and myself. I acknowledged my own feelings of anger, frustration, and hurt, yet I also cultivated empathy for her anxieties and misguided attempts at care. Understanding motives did not excuse overreach, but it allowed me to approach the reconciliation with a measured, compassionate perspective. This balance of firmness and understanding became the cornerstone of our new relationship, creating a dynamic where care and respect coexisted without compromise to my autonomy. I also realized the importance of legacy not just in financial terms, but in lessons, values, and emotional intelligence passed down to Adam. By involving him in the trust and educating him about boundaries, responsibility, and respect, I ensured that the principles I fought to uphold would endure beyond my own lifetime. The trust itself was a legal safeguard, but the true legacy was the example I set. That courage, prudence, and self-respect are timeless virtues. Months later, as I sat in my study reviewing letters and photographs, Ela approached quietly. "Emma, I want to thank you," she said, her voice sincere, "for showing me the right way to respect someone's life. I understand now." I felt a warmth in my chest, a mixture of pride and relief. It wasn't perfect, and the scars of past Tension remained, but there was a fragile understanding, a sense of mutual respect that had been absent before. In that moment, I felt the culmination of years of resilience, strategy, and unwavering commitment to dignity. Through this journey, I learned that autonomy is not simply maintained by physical independence, but through foresight, legal safeguards, and emotional fortitude. Family relationships require negotiation, patience, and sometimes the courage to enforce boundaries without guilt. I also discovered that reconciliation, even if fragile, is possible when respect is restored and when past wrongs are met with measured responses rather than reactive anger. The trust, the rituals with Adam, and the careful communication with Ela all contributed to a restoration of balance, proving that love and respect could coexist without surrendering one's selfhood. In the quiet of my home, I often reflect on the symbolism of the purse, the small, warm leather bag that sparked this journey. It represented independence, memory, and dignity. Its seizure forced me to confront issues I might otherwise have ignored, to assert my rights, and to establish safeguards that would ensure my life remained my own. And through this process, I found a renewed sense of self, a reaffirmation that age is no barrier to courage, foresight, or empowerment. Today, at 78, I live with a sense of quiet triumph. Ela and I have reached a tentative truce, grounded in clear boundaries and mutual respect. Adam remains my trusted companion and steward of the values I hold dear. My assets are secure, my decisions respected, and my home remains a sanctuary where autonomy reigns. I share this story not for vengeance, but as a testament to the power of standing firm, the importance of planning, and the possibility of reconciliation when boundaries are honored. I hope those listening understand that dignity, respect, and independence are worth every effort, every confrontation, and every careful decision. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, share it with friends, and comment on the lessons you learned. Your engagement helps keep stories like mine alive and empowers others to defend their autonomy with courage and wisdom. Moral lesson: respect is earned through boundaries. Autonomy is a right, nurtured carefully and honored. For lasting family trust and